Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Annu. I'm the founder of Upright. And while my amazing, hardworking colleagues have been doing quite some miracles in the past couple of months, building the Upright Double Materiality tool when it comes to the data, the technology behind it, and also interpreting the different ESRS regulatory updates and trying to keep up to what the EU is doing. I have been trying to answer the question of how CSRD fits into the larger picture of sustainability and impact-related challenges for companies. And I have been it's been actually quite astonishing to hear how both financial institutions as well as corporations in other industries are tackling CSRD and what this really means for them. And I think the key learning that I found is that this is not just another regulation. This is not just something that you do to tick the box, but this is actually, for many corporations, taken as almost as a chance to really fundamentally shape how sustainability is integrated to the rest of the company, how it is integrated to strategy and finance and business. And I think there are some very practical reasons behind this. One of them being that many companies organize CSRD under the CFO. You all know about the requirements, how the executive board is accountable for CSRD, and all of the other questions basically tie CSRD so much more centrally to the strategy. But then the question is, if and when this process of handling CSRD will in any case demand quite a lot of resources from a company, how to make the best of it? There's the other end. If you just try to do it as sort of get away with it as easy as possible, it will still be quite a circus. And then the question is, how do you turn it into something that actually brings business benefits? It's an opportunity to help the company grow. So I try to summarize in the next 5 minutes or so about 4 reasons, if you, Markus, move on, 4 reasons and 4 ways to actually turn CSRD into something of value in the company, beyond just ticking the box of being compliant with regulation. And the first of them is actually personally very, very dear to me, and I might even say exciting, which is about focus. If you look at corporations and financial institutions right now, and the different sustainability and impact-related demands that are coming from left and right, the pressures and the noise is quite overwhelming at times. There's obviously demands from investors, there's external questions, there are public discussions, but there's also increasingly internal challenging from your own employees, from your own organization. Why are we doing this? Why are we not doing that? What are we doing about this topic? And I think one of the beauties of CSRD compared to some of the other regulations that have essentially just added to the reporting burden, and sometimes, and this is just my personal opinion, but sometimes, for example, some parts of the SFDR have not necessarily added to clarity of the big picture, but rather just adding a lot to the burden of reporting on details before the big picture is even understood. One of the beauties of CSRD that it is really essentially about what is big and what is not. What are the most significant, most material, as we say in CSRD language, impacts that a company has on the surrounding world, both in terms of that direction, that what are the impacts that the company has on the surrounding world, and also what are the topics that might create financial risks and financial impacts for the company. And this is an amazing opportunity to use that to really bring some focus, because focus is really what is needed. Without focus in sustainability, you're just going to end up with crazy costs, crazy confusion, and at worst, even a bit of a loss of your strategic clarity as a company. So using the DMA, Double Materiality Assessment, really understanding these are the largest impacts for us in terms of impact materiality and in terms of financial materiality, and using that to both identify those impacts, but most often, of course, the company already knows it's not really rocket science, but also to justify, to use those explanations, those bases for for being able to rationalize why a given impact area is material or not. And this is something that we've also kept in mind when we've been developing the Upright Double Materiality Assessment tool, is that the answer in itself is one part of the value, but even a larger value is on what do you base it on? What is your ability to explain it to your stakeholders? What is your ability to then explain to your investors in an IR conference, or some internal discussions from your employees, or external questions in the media? Or when these first batch of these reports come out, how are you actually able to explain why your reasoning was X or Y? And here, no matter where you get to help, you at the end of the day need yourself to be the one that is equipped to answer these questions. So really to utilize the beauty of DMA in terms of highlighting the largest impacts and being able to also then say that this is what we focus on, because this is why these are the largest impacts for us right now. If something changes, then we will revisit this, and I will come back to that later. But right now, this is what we should be focusing on if and when we want to improve both our impact on the world and also safeguard our business from risks related to these topics. Secondly, a way to get the best bang for the buck from dealing with CSRD is KPIs. This is something that we are increasingly being contacted with regards to from our customers, which is, okay, now we've come to the point that impact is no longer just something huffy fluffy in how we communicate. We need to have robust KPIs throughout the organization, starting with the executive team. And often the question is, how do we form KPIs that actually then steer us to the right direction? Everyone knows from the business context how good KPIs work, and then it is very crucial to have them incentivize you in the right direction. Well, one way to go south with impact KPIs is, of course, choose something that is of minor importance, details from here and there, but are somehow just easy to measure. And this is something that many companies are struggling with these days. The double materiality assessment gives you an idea of what the largest areas are. So what are the areas where you will for sure be challenged going in the future, going forward, whether it's by your own people or people from outside your company, whether it's from your investors or the regulator or the media. So this is most likely an area where you should be focusing on, and then choosing the KPIs from the most significant areas identified in the DMA. And then, of course, to track them accordingly. That's also another factor for focus. If and when you need to put in place ways to track your most important impact KPIs, you should have some synergies when it comes to your double materiality assessment and your other impact tracking as well. So choose the ones that you will continuously track instead of having very separate focuses here and there. Thirdly, is a point having to do with how to actually tie sustainability issues into business decision making. This is something that many of the corporations that we've talked to in the past couple of months have struggled with. That still today, even though sustainability is at the core, or at least is being said to be at the core of many forerunner companies, still many of the efforts might sometimes feel a little bit separate from the rest of the business decision making. Very concretely, what can help in this is to model the alternative strategies. Let's say there are now 4 different CapEx strategies a company can take. There are these 3 different investment directions that we can go. Model their implications on your impact KPIs, on the double materiality, but at the same time, whatever are the impact KPIs that you're looking at, whether you're tracking net impact, whether your SFDR indicators are essential to you, or whether it's something you have are tracking along the UN SDGs, or whichever that might be. But model the actual business activities, understand their implications on your materiality questions, both financial and impact, and use that to tie those issues into business decision making. Very concretely, there's this area that's been identified as material for our financial materiality, and this is the implication that would take in strategy B versus C. These are the kinds of implications companies are increasingly need to kind of be able to imagine into the future and be able to provide their executive teams and executive boards of directors when making big decisions on a future direction of the company. And finally, and this is a bit of a sort of maybe so-called softer topic or having to do with people. Many especially CFOs that I've talked to lately and other C-level people have said that despite everyone in the company being increasingly interested in sustainability and impact and understanding its impact also on the hard factors of the company, there is still quite a lot of room to unify how people in the so-called finance and business parts of the organization think compared to the people in the so-called sustainability teams. And I think CSRD and especially double materiality assessment is a great concrete context for unifying how people think, how people approach these questions, to be able to speak the other teams and the other person's language. And sometimes it can even mean unifying some of the tools to be able to bring the approaches closer. Very concretely, companies, as you well know, are required to start to do a sort of sustainability impact reporting very similar to the financial reporting that we've been used to doing for decades. And in order for these to really work well together, there's a great sort of pressure, but also in positive thinking and opportunity to start to unify and think of these things in a lot more aligned ways than we've used to. Good. So these are just 4 thoughts of how to make sure that CSRD is not just another headache, not just another box to be ticked, not just another cost for complying with regulation, but rather something that can be turned into real benefits for running your business.